Hello everyone and welcome back to the second installment here of this FRS Formula One season team in the My Team mode. And before we get ready to head off to Bahrain, we had a decent result in Australia, coming P12, not my best track overall, but still a decent showing for the first time outfit. And on the rear wing of the car here, we've had a bit of a change of sponsorship. Gone is the generic Xbox logo, replaced by the rockin' fist of my dad's iPod, Bay Area-based cover band covering the 90s and 2000s rock and alternative and some other stuff in there as well. A band I was a part of and is still helmed by my father out there. So an excellent band to check out if you're in the Bay Area and they happen to be playing. But let's go ahead and head over to Bahrain, the track. It's the third time we've had it on the FRS calendar, each of the first 3 seasons. So now it's a track that I've got a pretty good experience with and is just one I've overall been fairly comfortable with. So plenty of overtaking opportunities, a very technical little middle section there, but you can see the long straights on the track map allow plenty of overtaking. And being out in the desert typically are very, very rare to have any kind of rain, so we won't have any rain there to dampen down our spirits today. But let's head out onto the track under the lights as this nighttime qualifying and nighttime race in the deserts of Sakhir as we get ready to open the DRS and start our first flying lap of this short qualifying session. A long run down the front straight, your best overtaking opportunity because it turns into a huge, heavy braking zone just kind of midway between the 150 and 100 meter boards to get on the brakes, and then tricky on the power through turns 2 and 3 before you head down the next short little DRS blast. You can get a good run out of turns 2 and 3. It's a good overtaking opportunity, but a very tight, tough exit early on the apex, slippery getting on the power now through the S's, back and forth, really only one line through here. It's all about trying to carry maximum minimum speed, and then downhill braking, a bit of a lockup into the hairpin of turn 8. Definitely an area where you're going to see quite a few lockups in both qualifying and the race. Now one of the toughest combinations of corners on the circuit here, the turns 9 and 10. You're turning and braking and coming downhill. So tough to get the car slowed down as the track falls away from you into that very tight left-hander. Another short DRS blast, and now you're into turns 11 and 12 and 13. Rising up the hill, flat out, avoid that curbing on the right. Don't touch that turn 12 curb on the inside. It will spin the car now. Another tricky braking zone, turning and braking. You see a lot of it here around Bahrain, and now one of the best overtaking opportunities without DRS is this penultimate straight and then hard on the brakes. Ride that outside curbing and then taking that double right-hander, just trying to get on the power as early as possible, open the DRS, and cross the start-finish line. And we are provisionally being one of the first cars out on the track, sitting at P2. We'll jump a few more minutes ahead as we get ready to start our second flying lap of the session. You can see we've already fallen all the way down now to P16 as some of the faster cars have set their lap times. But of course, my typical procedure is I tend to build up my speed around a track. I'm not typically going to be the quickest out the gate right away. So we'll see if we can move a little bit further up the grid. The better we can qualify, the more it'll help us out in turning in a good result. However, this is a track that does have some very difficult tire wear characteristics. It takes a lot of life out of the tires. So being just outside of the top 10 is actually an ideal position to be when you don't have the outright best performing car, because you do have the opportunity then to opt for a one-stop strategy around here, as opposed to if you're starting on the softs, it's really going to take quite a bit of effort to try and make a one-stop work, and you'll see a lot of cars likely going for a two-stop strategy. Now, you do lose about 24 seconds in the pit lane, so if you are able to make that one-stop strategy work and keep decent pace all around, you can definitely make up quite a few positions by staying out and taking the alternate strategy. Even though you may be on a slower tire for the duration of the race, you can definitely gain quite a few positions in the midfield by running that medium to hard tire strategy. But you can see as we come through turn 13, we've gained about a quarter of a second on our previous best time. A little bit slower on the exit there, losing a couple thousandths here and there. But it should be in a position to move us up just nearly to the low 127s in this car. Getting on the throttle there, decent exit, opening the DRS and crossing the line, and we've jumped up now to P15 overall, so moved up just a solitary position. Now here we are, getting ready to start the final flying lap. Only about a couple minutes left in the session here as we streak down the start-finish straight, and you can see a bunch of cars coming out of the pit lane unfortunately, as Perez is going to park it right on the apex of turn 1. We're not able to get to the inside there, and you can see just how much time we lost through that first corner by not being able to take the ideal line, as the AI on their outlap is just absolutely parked it. So we're going to go ahead and just pull it into the pits, unable to improve on our best lap time there, not able to take advantage of that optimal track evolution at the end. So we will be starting, looks like at the moment, P16. We'll see if anybody sets any better time.
For tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Hamilton, Bottas, and Max Verstappen. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
So Hamilton trying to get back that championship lead. Obviously, as you know from the last episode, Valtteri Bottas taking the opening win of this season and pushing Hamilton a little bit further down the order. But we are starting 16th, and Mahavir not last again, starting just second from last ahead of Latifi. But here you are with the 5 red lights up, a decent hold for us, and the lights are out, and away we go. A decent launch. We are running fairly under-fueled at the start here. You can see about a half a lap under, as we're going to try and pick our way through this heavy braking zone, moving to the inside of Ocon. Ricciardo, you see the AlphaTauri going way around the outside of Kvyat there. So now just tiptoeing through turns 1 and 2, getting some serious push on the sides from Pierre Gasly. That forces us off the track. We're going to have to kind of take a little bit of oversteer as we rejoin the track and come right across Gasly's nose. And honestly, since he kind of forced us off, I'm not too unhappy about rejoining directly in front of him. So that's one for him to deal with. But we've managed to get up to P12. We gained about 4 positions through that first corner. And now we've got to set our sights. We just have Kvyat in front of us on the medium tires. And then it's all the drivers inside the top 10 on those soft compounded tires. So at the opening part of this race, we've put ourselves in a very good position running the alternate strategy just behind those on that soft compound tire. Now, if we can get ourselves ahead of any of those soft tire runners, it'll be even better for us. But first, we got to try and clear the Russian Daniel Kvyat in the AlphaTauri just ahead. So up the hill we go, turns 11 and 12, trying to keep that traction down as the tires carrying that extra bit of heavier fuel base. They've still got plenty of traction at this stage. Turn 12, though, can get a little bit leery towards the tail end of the race, especially if you've got some older tires on. But at this point, 3 laps until the DRS is going to be enabled, so we're going to have to just try and make an overtake the old-fashioned way if we're going to gain any positions on these opening couple of laps. And I'm sure we'll see those soft tire runs. You can see already starting to open up a little bit of a gap to Kvyat in front, but we've got the run. We've got a slipstream. We're going to go and use that overtake, pull to the outside of him, try and take him around the outside. So hard on the brakes there. He's gone a bit deep, defends his position well, isn't on it, and we have a big snap of oversteer and have a little bit of wheel banging with Kvyat there. And that's going to put him side by side, and he is squeezing us right to the edge of the track. We're still battling all the way down into turn 4, trying to be later on the brakes. We're very similar on the way through there. And now here he is squeezing us right to the edge of the track. Once again, no contact, and we just have to bail out. We have to lift off. No sense going side by side through that corner this early in the race. It was almost certainly a recipe for disaster if you go for that. In the FRS, we saw in Division 2, we saw the 2 Ferraris try and go side by side through that section of S's, and it turned into tears for them. So definitely trying to make a little bit better decisions here and just take a quick peek to see if there's any damage on. But we're doing just fine so far. Have to save about a half a lap of fuel over the race distance, but should be able to do that just without trying to lift and coast too much in this one. It's all going to be about trying to manage these medium tires, not push them too hard so we can try and take them as long as we can, and then switch onto the hards at the end without losing too much time. We're in a bit of an AlphaTauri sandwich. You see Kvyat has already kind of lost touch with Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari just ahead, as we got a little bit of side pod damage. One thing we just found out in F1 2021, that kind of damage will have an effect on your car. Side pod, floor damage. It's not just front wing and suspension damage that's going to be the issue anymore. You are going to have much more full damage model in the 2021 variant. But we are not in a position to make any kind of move on Kvyat just yet. But you see the first time the DRS flipping open, as we have it luckily available to defend from Pierre Gasly, who takes a little bit of a look to the inside in turn 4, but is unable to make any kind of move stick. We just have similar straight line pace into that one. We typically have a little bit better straight line speed right now than most of the other cars in the midfield, so we're going to look to use that to our advantage over the course of this race. Of course, though, not having quite the same level of downforce can be a bit of a pain, especially in this turns 9 and 10 combination. We tend to lose a bit to the cars around us in this combination of corners, and definitely tough to try and keep those that front left from locking up. But once again, the DRS is open, closing up to Kvyat in front, but not in a position to make any kind of an overtake just yet. It's all going to be about setting him up down the penultimate straight and then trying to make a move down when we have DRS for the first time down the long main straight. We're going to use a little bit of overtake, dip into the slipstream here, try and close that gap just under braking, and so we can set ourselves up for the best possible move. A little bit of a lock-up onto that final corner, but we've got a very good run out of that last corner. Now you see that DRS open wide, that letterbox flipped open. We've got the overtake on. We're in that rich mix, closing up to Kvyat, using that slipstream as long as we can. Now we're going to go to the outside once again, see if we can make the move stick this time as he's right up alongside our side pod there. And that time we're able to get the move completed. He is going to have DRS on us down this short little straight, I believe, but we are going to go ahead and get a better exit, use a little bit of an extra squirt of overtake to get a good launch off, and now we are the leading car in the pack of the medium runners. And we jump ahead now to lap 7 as the first drivers on the softs are starting to pit in. Valtteri Bottas in the pit lane, that pale blue dot of the Mercedes. So we've moved up now into the top 10 overall. We've still got Danny Kvyat all over our gearbox, so you can see we haven't really been able to save much fuel at all. Still sitting at about that 0.5 mark of fuel to save, and our battery is running fairly low, down in the 20s and 30s of percent. Not a lot of easy places to recharge the battery here at Bahrain. Obviously, you get the big regenerative stop down into turn 1 and into the hairpin. You're not carrying as much speed that you're going to screw off, but a lot of other ones you're kind of mid-level braking or kind of scrubbing speed just on quick short bursts, so you're not really generating as much energy as you would think. So it does take a few laps to try and get yourself recharged and back into an ideal position to try and have some overtake to defend with. But we are just now kind of leading this little gaggle of cars, the two AlphaTauris and of course a Renault that we're so far behind pace-wise in Australia. We're showing much better pace here around Bahrain, especially in the race situations. But all 4 of the cars here, and you can see actually the second Renault pulling up into the shot there at the tail end, trying to catch this little group. All of us on the medium tires, so all of these outside of top 10 cars looking to make an alternate strategy work out. But here we are coming for the next time by, and you can see a gaggle of cars in the pit lane. Vettel, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, all in the pit lane, and we've gotten past all of them. So now we are up into P5 overall, 8 laps into this race. Now we are looking to go to about lap 13 or so on the medium tires to make that switch over. Have about 16 laps to go on the hards at the tail end, but we'll just have to try and manage the tires. We are having to push fairly hard, though, with this huge group of cars right behind us, not giving us any breathing space. So we are definitely going to have to try and find a different spot in the race to try and save up this fuel, because as it stands right now, any kind of fuel saving we do right here is going to put us at a bit of risk to the cars behind us. Big oversteer moment there, though, coming out of the hairpin. The back end really snaps, and all of a sudden Kvyat, who was just kind of sitting back all over the gearbox once again, trying to take a different line through turn 10 there and not able to make anything move. And now we're having to really deploy our fuel mix and our electrical deployment to just keep him behind down that DRS straight, but we managed to do it. And so now we can just kind of settle back into the rhythm and try and keep our focus on the cars ahead. Those soft tire runners, most of them have already come into the pits, but we still have a couple running out there as we have a little bit more of a lockup. That is not going to do us any favors for the health of the tires over the course of this one. Now as we come around the final corner down the pit straight, you see lots of stop dots in there, and as we cross them all making that pit stop, we have taken the lead of the race and the first lead of the season, or the first lead of the career for the FRS Formula One team. So getting the new sponsor on the rear wing, and now we've got some sweet TV time as we're leading the race. So definitely a good time for those sponsors to jump on board and show off their new duds on the car. But it feels good to be on that alternate strategy and being the car that is leading that alternate strategy pack 9 laps into this race. Of course, we're going to just have to kind of press on. We are going to have some attacks from those on softer compound tires as the race goes on, but our focus at the moment is still on this group of cars, both of the AlphaTauris, both of the Renaults behind us. Mahavir Raghunathan is not exactly playing the role of the rear gunner for us. He is still round the tail end of the grid, but you can see in the background, there's the Mercedes starting to work their way up towards the Alfa Romeos, as they've already made their pit stops and are on fresher, softer compounds than what we've got on right now, and trying to make up the pit stop delta that they need to in order to offset the strategy differential and make that 2-stop work. But as another lap gets ready to be put in the books, we have just about crossed the line to lead officially our first lap. We were just not quite past the line when we had just passed the line after we took the lead the first time. Now we have officially gotten in the books and led a lap at Bahrain in Formula One with the FRS Formula One team. But we still have quite a few cars nipping at our heels at this stage. Luckily, no damage to us, and we're keeping the tires in decent nick so far. But as we flip back, you can see on the main straight, yellow flags down now into turn 1. There is a stricken car. Somebody has lost power. Somebody is blown up back there. And it looks like a red dot is dropping off the track, and Charles Leclerc of the Ferrari is out. And on lap 10 here, a safety car has been called. So now,
keep your delta number positive as we form up. Check your MFD for a new strategy option.
and so now the strategy choices very quickly made. Jeff offered us the swap to the 2-stop strategy to make a pit for the soft tires, run a few laps, and then come in once more for the mediums. We are deciding to still stick to the main strategy, but we are coming in this lap. So about 3 laps ahead of schedule instead of having to do only 16 laps on the hard compound tires. Now we are going to have to be stretching a 19-lap stint on those hard compound tires. So definitely going to be a tough one for us to do, but at this point the field is going to be bunched up. If we don't make this move now, we're still going to have a lot of other cars go on to the 2-stop strategy. So I'm deciding to stick with my original alternate strategy, still not take the pit stop, because we will have to make no more pit stops, and everybody who's going for that 2-stop will have to make another one under likely green flag conditions. But as we brake to hit the pit limiter line, both AlphaTauris, both Renaults going to be double stacking behind us, so that's going to cost a couple of their drivers some time as they pull in. And that actually is really going to cost Renault some time, because they're going to be stuck up behind the AlphaTauris. They're not going to be able to pull their first car out until both of the AlphaTauris are done with their pit stop. So that is really going to cost Renault at this stage. We'll see if they've able to... Oh, it looks like they've actually managed to pull just out. Now, here we are as we get out of the pit limiter line, racing down into turn 1, trying to slot ourselves in without losing any more positions. And we do just manage to out-drag Lance Stroll to the line. We've now slotted in between the Red Bull of Alex Albon and Lance Stroll, sitting in 8th place overall. So only losing 7 positions by taking that pit stop under the safety car, still inside the points. And it looks like Albon on mediums, Norris on softs, Stroll and Kvyat all on softs. So all going for that 2-stop strategy. But here we are on lap 13 now. The safety car is in. Green flag racing is back in effect. And we were held up a little bit behind Alex Albon. Not able to get close, but we're going to have a big dive down into turn 1 alongside Albon. Strike while the iron's hot. He was being very just conservative into turn 1, sticking with the racing line, and left a huge door open. So we pounced as we were starting to get a little pressure from Lance Stroll, who was behind us. And now you can see Lance Stroll trying to have a little bit of a go at Alex Albon. Stroll, of course, on a slightly faster compounded tire, but Alex not going away, trying to stick his nose up through the S section, has to back it out as we shut the door on him. And in much the mentality of Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher, it's either you give me the racing line or we're going to have a crash. And that time Alex Albon was wise to back out of that one, as we were not going to yield that position. Now, I don't expect at this stage of the race that we're really going to be able to keep up with the cars just ahead of us on those soft tires, because there's a huge grip differential between softs and hards, good for about 1.5 to 1.8 seconds a lap here on equal car performance. Of course, They're also running some cars that have better performance overall. But on the plus side, that safety car situation meant, if you check a look at the fuel mixture, we are now positive on that fuel mix. So we were able to do all of our fuel saving under the safety car, and you can see Lewis Hamilton already popping in a 129 as we're lapping in the 132s. But here, jumping ahead now, lap 14. DRS now is just been enabled. Alex Albon doesn't have it just yet. He's using the slipstream, trying to make an overtake on us. We're going to defend to the inside, side by side on the brakes into turn 1, and now we're just going to try and leave a little space for Alex Albon, but he's going to settle into our rear view mirror and allow us to take the racing line for turn 2. We were ready to give him some racing room side by side, and now he's going to try and have an attack back at us into turn 4. But the more we can hold back this train of cars that is on this alternate tire strategy to us on that 2-stop, the better it is for us. Although we don't want to lose touch with that group that's ahead of us. We want to continue to have good laps. But here we are jumping now. Lap 17 just at the start as some of those soft tire runners pitting in, and we're all the way up now to second place just behind Lando Norris, the last of the soft tire runners ahead of us to stay out. We are taking big heat from Alex Albon behind, who is pushing on us and trying to get past us. He really wants to make his way through and use those medium tires, but he's not able to get past us. Stuck in a bit of a DRS train now. We've got enough straight line speed now to just hold him off, and that's also making it so all of the soft tire runners behind us are struggling behind the mediums. We're essentially keeping them to a hard tire pace, so they aren't able to really make any kind of ground on us. But we're just trying to keep, we were about 5 seconds back of Lando Norris at last looking, and that's definitely will put us well ahead. Give him about 20 seconds or so to make up that differential when he comes into the pit lane to chase us down and overtake us. But you can see the huge line of cars now as we're in second place, and everybody's kind of stuck up behind us as we were really one of the only cars to opt for the hard tire strategy. Everybody else made the change, even those outside the top 10, to that 2-stop strategy. Expecting it to be, well, it would be the quicker pace, but they aren't able to make the overtake just stick on me leading this. I have enough straight line speed. I've managed to save enough fuel. I am burning through my electrical energy pretty rapidly, though, and it will be a matter of time. And you can see Alex Albon gets a tremendous launch off of that final corner. And you can see we're pulling just away using that rich fuel mixture. We don't have much battery left to fight back with. And here we are down into turn 1. He pulls to the inside, and now here he is coming through turn 1. He takes a big hop over the curb, and that's unsettled the car tremendously. And he has to back out as he has to get the back end of that car back under control, and that allows us to take that position back. So he had the pace, he had the line on us, but a mistake going too much over the curbing there cost him the opportunity for an overtake, and now he is going to have to sit behind us even more. And once again, having a look through the S session there, and again, we just closed the door on him. And once again, just trying to hold off that position from the cars ahead as Lando Norris had come into the pit lane, and we are now essentially, we are leading this race once again. So more TV time for all the sponsors, for the FRS, for Ellsworth, for all my Spotify friends, for my dad's iPod. So plenty of time for them to all get checked out. But that huge train of DRS behind us is almost certainly at some point going to catch up to us and cause us a bit of heartache. It's all about the exit from turn 13 as now we're trying to move off the racing line, break the slipstream of Albon, who is following us there and stays a little bit to the inside. And look at how close he is able to get under braking there, although we are able to get a little bit better of a launch as he had to kind of back out. And look at all those cars in the rearview mirror diving into the pit lane. And now Albon, Kvyat, Ricciardo, Bottas all into the pits. And that's going to promote Kevin Magnussen in the Haas up into second place temporarily. And Lewis Hamilton, though, up 8 seconds back. Max Verstappen, 9.7 seconds back. So drivers that have already made that pit stop. And now we have to try and hold off the crowd. Jumping now to lap 22 of 29. Magnussen had come into the pit lane, and here comes Lewis Hamilton. Easy move. We get onto the lean mix very early. No point in fighting a much, much faster Mercedes for the 7 laps left to go in this race. Don't tell me to focus, Jeff. He's in a much faster car, and now we're just going to try and stay in the DRS as long as we can. Almost certainly going to lose a position to Verstappen, but Vettel and Norris are essentially our targets for the finish of this race, trying to stay ahead of both of those, trying to get our first podium and our first points of the season. But the alternate strategy has worked out very well for us so far, although towards the very end of this race, we are really going to be struggling as we have pushed these hard tires a few laps further than what we would expect. And you can already see Verstappen coming up behind us down this little back straight, not quite in the DRS range just yet out of turn 10, but he is very much closing up that action. And Sebastian Vettel is also lurking a few seconds further back. So it's going to be all about managing the tires, managing the pace the rest of the way. And we're just trying to save some fuel where we can to have enough to fight with the cars that we want to fight with, as opposed to the cars we don't want to fight with. But here, Verstappen is certainly going to be in the DRS range down the front straight this time and should have a very good go at overtaking us. We aren't going to fight it too hard if we have to. But as it stands, he's not closing up too much. We're not really using the overtake mode, not using that hot lap. Here he is pitching it to the inside, trying to come up the inside of us and not able to really make the move stick, much like his teammate Albon a few laps ago. He kind of runs it over the curbing and unsettles the car. But this time now with that DRS, it's going to be a chance for us to fight it. We're not going to give him the free run down into turn 4, because if we do, we're going to be in dirty air for the entirety of turns 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we want to keep some clean air on the front wing that is a little bit tattered at this point, not losing too much performance from that little gash in that front end plate, it would seem. The car felt fine at this stage, but you can see Sebastian Vettel 3.5 seconds back with about 6 laps left to go in this one. Lando Norris 7 seconds back, so it's likely going to be that Verstappen gets by, and a very good chance that Sebastian Vettel, who is closing that gap rather rapidly, gets by us as well. But a top 5 in our first for our first points would be nothing to sniff at in just the second race of the season. But here comes Verstappen all over our gearbox. We're having to get on the brakes very early and very gingerly to try and save the tires, keep them from locking up as much as possible. We're going to use a little squirt of overtake to stay ahead and make him overtake us on the main front straight. So here we are out of the final corner, just keeping it nice and easy on the power, smooth, trying to keep that back end from stepping out. You see we're keeping it in the lean mixture as we head down the front straight now, just letting him go this time. Fighting him that first time through when he was unable to complete the overtake cleanly definitely cost us at least a few tenths, maybe even about a half second or so. But here we are jumping to lap 25 of 29. Only 4 laps left to go, and Sebastian Vettel closed that gap very quickly. A big snap of oversteers. We're trying to get on the power, and that is certainly going to give him the opportunity to have the run on us. We're in the rich mix. We've got the overtake mode on. We're going to squeeze him a little bit to the inside of the track, but he's just has the DRS help and is going to just go right by us, and it's not really worth fighting it any more than that. I didn't want to give that one up for free because a mistake from him could have led to a good haul of points and a potential podium for us. You can see tires right around that 50% mark on the front left, which is the critical tire around this track. So much scrubbing and long right-handers that cause some trouble for us. And of course, all the locking that goes on that same tire through turns 9 and 10. But as we are with 3.5 laps left to go, Lando Norris 4.4 seconds back on that medium compound tire, and that is our target for the rest of this race. Just trying, it's a big lock up there as it's going way deep into turn 10. Now here we go, jumping one last time, lap 28 of 29 as we're getting ready to head into the final 2 corners. Lando Norris 1.2 seconds back. We used a big squirt of overtake down that back straight last time to try and get him just outside that DRS zone. We just have to keep him outside of that 1 second mark. And we've pretty much held the position because he's not going to have the entirety of that front straight to overtake us at the tail end of the race. He's going to have to make it happen somewhere else in this lap. And we are just kind of nursing the tires around. They're definitely getting pretty slippery at this stage of the race. Really struggling to keep connection. And unlike Australia last week, where I was able to just kind of turn the engine down and gently cruise my way into the finish, this time we're definitely going to have to take some extra wear out of the engine, pushing hard, and also open ourselves to the possibility of a mistake. But there is no risk or no reward without some kind of risk, and we can't just give it up freely, as right now we also have looks like Sergio Perez, who has closed in that racing point up right on the gearbox of Lando Norris. So if we make some kind of oversteer mistake, the back end steps out on us and allows a run, we will almost certainly lose 2 positions as they are right up the back of us. But the last DRS zone they have a chance to attack us into turn 11. Luckily, we're able to keep them by, and now it's just a matter of keeping the back end from sliding around too much through turns 11 and 12. The back end on those hard tires gets a little sketchy at the tail end as you're going full throttle there. And now one last blast, one last real overtaking opportunity for him, and we're dumping all of our battery that we've got, all the fuel we have. You can see the red lights flashing on all the cars as we're below that 10% mark, trying to just harvest whatever energy is left. You can see we're already burning it up as we come across the line, and we have scored our first points in the FRS, or in the F1 season in the FRS Formula One team. A P4, so 12 good solid points for us, and a driver of the day to boot.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
Lewis Hamilton taking the top step of the podium, Max Verstappen coming second, and Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari, showing that Bahrain is still very much a Ferrari stronghold. Even though that car is a bit down on performance this season, it is still up there here in Bahrain, but no Valtteri Bottas.
So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship after an excellent result. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
I have to give it to Old Timer. There was a lot going on all down the field, but they were the only one who I really felt maximised their potential.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend from them as they fight their way towards the top. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
A shocking race for Valtteri Bottas. 3 pit stops, must have taken some damage at some point, but finishing outside of the points that time around, and that is going to cost him the lead in the Drivers' Championship that he held after the first race. But we have Vietnam, the Hanoi circuit, next up on the board, and we've reached the stage where we can sign a in-game secondary sponsor. We're going to go ahead and go with Atlantic, which gives us a nice solid goal for completing 75 laps each race weekend. And now we'll go ahead and drop in some of the activities to improve the car a little bit. So we'll go ahead and have a a pretty free durability upgrade. And we're going to just continue to try and fill out some of that chassis development, reaction training for the second driver, and a little bit of extra acclaim to round out the day. And we're about the 4th slowest car on the grid at the moment. We have developments pending in the power plant chassis and aero team. So the only ones open for another development is the durability department. So we're going to go ahead and have another one of those go ahead and get ready to develop. We'll see. We've got a 1.9 mil in the bank right now. We're going to go ahead and upgrade some of the analysis suite there to try and help out Mr. Mahavir for a little bit longer. But a good, solid weekend out there, scoring our first points of the season, and then we head off to the tricky Hanoi track, which is definitely going to be an interesting run for us. One that wasn't run in real life F1, may never be run, but it's a tricky track for sure. And one that obviously, and it's never run in the FRS either, so definitely one that I haven't had a whole lot of practice on. But I'll see you guys next week. Peace.